First thing we need to do, and I know you've seen a big old mess here with all these broken coconut pieces. The first thing we need to do is to crack them open to get the flesh or the meat out, which is this part here. But it's got this hard shell. Now when buying the coconuts, there's a few things you want to make sure there's no sort of sign of mold or anything like that. A more round coconut, I find, tend to have thicker sort of flesh or meat. This is the dried coconut here. And the last thing I want to impress on you to do is to shake it. And you want to hear water. You can't hear it too much in here, but I can hear it closer to my ears. You want to make sure there's water swishing around in there. The next thing we want to do is to grab a cloth. It's just going to make it a lot safer for you. And you're going to put it on there. Yeah? Get a nice big firm grip on it. And using the back of a nice thick knife or a cleaver or a hammer, and we're just going to knock it here. Now be very careful. You may want to wear safety goggles because there's little pieces of the shell may want to jump back and go into your eyes. And some people they like keeping the actual water from the coconut. I see no real use for it. You can do so if you want, totally up to you. And just going to hit it a few times. And notice it's cracking there. The whole idea is to crack it open now. See, in this case here, it came out lovely. I don't have to worry too much, because the next step can be a bit dangerous. So I'm going to go ahead off camera and I'm going to break all of this off. And there's a beautiful dried coconut. That's what a dried coconut looks like. You can hear the water moving around in there. I'll break it open in a second so you can see that. And this step can be a bit dangerous, so I'm using a sharp paring knife. And once you crack them open, I'll show you a piece here. What you want to do is get a good grip on it, and you're going to use your paring knife, and you're going to go between the flesh and the hard shell. And that's what's going to release the shell that is rubbish. It makes a great firewood, by the way, if you want to use it for fire starter and stuff like that. And this is what we got. I'm going to give this a rinse to make sure all of the little dirt on the inside here, which is just remnants from the shell that's on here. And then we're going to cut it up into small pieces and put it into the blender or a food processor. I would recommend a high-speed blender, or you can grate it. You know, typically we would get a grater and then we would grate it like that. The other thing, if you have one of the machines, the sort of gadgets that you can put this into, and then there's a part that goes in here and you spin it and it grates it. I have one in the garage, but I'm too lazy to go in the backyard right now to get it to show you. But in a future video, I'll show you how to do that. And that will grate it as well without having to remove all of these pieces. So again, being very, very careful. Yeah, go between the shell and work the pieces of coconut out. With the pieces all washed and clean now, all I'm going to do is cut it up into smaller pieces. Just like that, just to make it easier for the blender to break it down to make the coconut milk. And this is going to be a 3-step process. I'll be showing you all. The first video, how to make coconut milk. The second video, how to make coconut cream. And the third video, while I wish I had more dried coconut, because you really need a lot to get a good yield of coconut oil. But the third video, the final in this, is going to be how to make coconut oil. So I'm just going to go ahead and break this down. And when I say break it down, I'm just cutting up into small pieces, maybe about 1 centimeter or so. It will take a few minutes to chop it all up into small pieces. If you want to go smaller, it's totally up to you. I've got my blender, so in the blender I'm going to put all of the coconut pieces in there. And this is a really powerful blender. You may want to do it in smaller increments if you want. And what we need is water to help break it down. So I'm going to go with about 3 cups of water. Just a tiny bit more water. And all you want to do now is to puree that all the way down, just to break it all up. And all we have to do after that is to use a cheesecloth or a strainer, and you would squeeze it to get all of the pulp out, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how easy it is to make coconut milk. So I'll show you that. Within a minute or two, you'll see what we have here. It's nice and broken down, so that's exactly what we want. Whoa, look at that. Typically when my dad would do this, he would grate the coconut and he would use a combination of his hands and then later on a piece of cloth or a cheesecloth or something. In our case, what we're going to use, I know the bowl is a bit of an overkill. It's a big bowl, but I just wanted to be able to show you all what we're doing. We're going to empty some of that puree in there. And you notice the milk that's coming out there, that is pure coconut milk. And I'm using a spoon. You can use a spatula. Now if you wanted to use a cheesecloth where you can really wring it and get most of, if not all of that coconut milk out, cool. I am just going to squeeze, yeah? I'm squeezing against just to make sure. And you want to make sure you squeeze really well to get all of that coconut milk out. And that is how simple it is to make coconut milk. That is pure coconut milk we got down there. For some reason I cannot find cheesecloth, so what I have here is just a dish towel, a clean dish towel. I'm just gonna add some in there, just like that, and then it's gonna go like so, and I'm gonna wring and squeeze all of that milk out, and this gives me more control. Now if you wanted to add some more water back to the pulp and do it a second time, you can, but I just want this sort of more pure version. I'm giving it a good squeeze here. To make it easier, what you can do is get a second bowl and you're gonna pour, yeah? This way, the cloth is not touching in there when you try to do what I did earlier. And all you would do then is squeeze it together, yeah? And then you would empty this bowl into the other one as a sort of final catchment for everything. And there you go, you've just made pure coconut milk. You can, you know, divide it up into portions, you know, maybe a cup each, and you can freeze it, and whenever a recipe calls for coconut milk, you thaw it out, give it a good shake, and you know, you would use it. That's the easiest way to make coconut milk. I just wanted to show you all something here. Notice how nice and dry this is. It is completely dry because I squeezed all of the milk, all of the liquid, all of the juice out of here. So this is completely dry now. Part 2 of the 3-part series that we're doing. The first part I showed you all how to make coconut milk. So here we have what would have typically been grated coconut, but what we did was we used a food processor, a blender to extract the coconut milk along with some water. I showed you how to crack the coconut open, how to tell if it's a good coconut, and how to be very careful when you're doing so. I already strained it in the last video, as you saw, so that's the coconut milk there. What I want to do now is give it a second strain, yeah, just to make sure we pick up any more of the husk that we removed. Let's get the last of it in there, and I'm just going to show you all. I'm almost positive we caught some stuff in there. See, there's some minute stuff that I'm seeing there, and the reason why I put it into this glass jar now is because I want to be able to show you all. And we're going to put this into the fridge now, and it's a bit overkill with the big container that I have, but I want to put this into the fridge, and then what's going to happen is the cream is going to rise to the top, it's going to solidify, and the water that we use is going to settle to the bottom. So all we need to do is one of two things. You can cut a hole in there, and I'll show you this as we get to it tomorrow, which is 12-24 hours later in the fridge. You can cut a hole and drain out that water, or you can just scrape the top off, and that then, ladies and gentlemen, is pure coconut cream. I'm not sure how well it's showing on camera, but you can see the separation that happened. So we've got a thick layer of pure white, and then a bottom layer of a sort of a gray sort of cream color on the bottom. Quick recap time. In yesterday's video, it was all about making coconut milk, and all we did was I showed you how to choose the right dried coconut fat, how to break it open, being very careful when doing so. A safety issue, grating it or putting it into a high-speed blender, adding water, then we squeeze all of that, the sort of the fiber out of it, and that gave us coconut milk. Here we are today. We placed the same coconut milk with the water and everything else that we had into the fridge. It's been 24 hours, and in the video that you just saw there, you saw the sort of separation on the, well, I didn't mean to do that, but anyhow what we have here now is the separation with the water on the bottom and the pure coconut cream on the top. And what I really wanted to show you all was there are two ways you can separate that water, which is rubbish at this point, to get the cream. And the first one is to make a hole like so, and you would drain that water out. Now that I made a sort of a mess of things, this is pure coconut cream. Let me show you behind my hand here. This is pure coconut cream, because I know white on white, it probably isn't looking the greatest. So what I would recommend doing is, all we have to do is just scoop it out and get small containers. 2 tablespoons of coconut cream in a container, put it into your fridge or the freezer. It's gonna last forever in the freezer. So whenever you're cooking and you want pure coconut cream in there, there you go. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure having you all in the kitchen with me. What the next video that we're gonna shoot now is, and that video is going to be ready for you tomorrow, is how to make coconut oil with this coconut cream. So I'm going to go ahead and separate this, and we'll continue. So I do hope you join me for the next video. Coconut cream, it's so easy to make, and yo man, it adds life. It adds life and taste in it. Why is it so shiny, man? Oh gosh. Let me see if I can play with the light a little bit so you can see this. There you go. Yeah, coconut cream. I will have the entire step, the 3-step from milk to cream to oil, posted on CaribbeanPot.com, so you can follow along over there as well.